All right, so this is our last math question from our free response questions from our fall final. So hooray, since it's also 11 o'clock at night, I'm also going to have a little fun with this. Okay, so for question number 3, it says coral reefs occupy only about 0.2% of the ocean floor. Let me blow this up, that way you guys can see it. Okay, these ecosystems provide vital ecological and economic services. Corals are massive colonies of tiny polyp animals that build their calcium carbonate skeleton around their soft tissue. Corals grow extremely slowly. In fact, on average, corals grow between 0.3 centimeters to 10 centimeters per year. Almost all corals have symbiotic algae, zooxanthellae, growing inside their tissues. Corals are sensitive to many abiotic conditions, such as water temperature and clarity. A 2005 report by the World Conservation Union found that 15% of coral reefs have been destroyed, and another 20% severely damaged. Since corals are sensitive to environmental change, many have suffered due to human activities. Now, the only question we're going to cover in free response question 3 is part A. Scientists have found that colonies of brain coral can grow as large as 1.8 meters in size. What is the minimum and maximum amount of years it could have taken this coral to grow? All right, so we're talking about brain coral. So I'm going to do a little video inception for you guys. All right, so here is some brain coral, okay? Pretty obvious why we call it brain coral. It looks like the little grooves inside of your brain, right? Now, this is a really cool, interesting video that I saw just while randomly searching. And this is your brain coral kind of opened up. And you see that little blue thing right there, that blue and yellow thing is actually a fish. And what the coral is doing is it trapped the fish, and now that fish can't get out, and it's actually going to feed on that fish. So a lot of people think that coral are, like, I don't know, plant-like creatures, but they're actually little animals that form symbiotic relationships with algae, which are going to be photosynthetic. So it's like multiple organisms in one. And so, of course, our most famous example of coral, or a coral reef, is going to be the Great Barrier Reef. It is the largest living structure, spanning more than 1,200 miles off the coast of Australia. Okay, and I remember Priscilla did an excellent job on presenting coral reefs. So this is kind of the stuff that you see. A lot of other organisms depend on the coral reef as shelter or for food as well. And I had the great pleasure of one time swimming at a coral reef in the Philippines. Okay, so that was kind of our YouTube video within a YouTube video, which I said was our videoception. Okay, so let's go ahead and get back to our notes, or rather our review. Okay, so again, the question is asking what is the minimum and maximum amount of years it could have taken this coral to grow. Okay, so some key pieces of information. Corals grow between 0.3 centimeters and 10 centimeters per year, and that the brain coral can grow as large as 1.8 meters. That's nearly 2 meters wide. Now, 1.8 meters is precisely 6 feet. So imagine someone that's 6 feet tall, kind of laid out on his or her side, and that's the size of these brain coral. So they're pretty large. So let's go ahead and get started. So some key pieces of information, and again, this is for 3A, is the minimum is probably going to be 0.3, or 3/10 of a centimeter, while our maximum is going to be 10 centimeters. Okay, that's when it's growing super, super fast. Actually, I think I have these flipped, because if it's growing super, super fast, this should be the minimum. And if it's growing really, really slow, this will be the maximum number of years. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So we're saying our brain coral is how many meters wide? 1.8. So we have 1.8 meters wide. Now, Here we have centimeters and here we have meters, so we have to do a little bit of conversion, okay? So we have to know that if our meters is on top, our numerator, we're going to divide by meters to help cancel that out. Well, how are we going to know our conversion factors? That 100 centimeters means that there's 100 centimeters in a meter, just like there's 100 cents in a dollar, okay? So 1.8 meters is going to be the same thing as saying 180 centimeters. Okay, so we did our little conversion, right? Now let's say our brain coral is growing super fast, okay? So it's growing at the rate of 10 centimeters per year. So let's take our 180 centimeters and we're going to divide it by 10 centimeters per year. Now you see how these centimeters cancel out, and this per year is actually on the denominator, so it actually flips up here when we get our answer. So what's 180 divided by 10? Oh, that's really easy. This is just going to be 18 years. Okay, so 18 years is going to be our minimum. All right. Now let's take that same 180 centimeters. That's as big as our brain coral, and we're going to say it grows at a much slower rate. Let's say it only grows at 3/10 of a centimeter per year. Well, now what we're going to have to do is a little bit of movement of our decimals, okay? So we could say, let's see, we could say 180 divided by 3/10 is going to be the same thing as if we multiplied everything by 10, right? So it would be the same as saying 1,800 divided by 3. So what we did was we took this decimal point that would be right here, and we moved it over to the right one, as well as moving this decimal point over to the right one. Okay, now what we could do is now simple long division, right? A lot of you guys are going to be able to do this mentally. I'm just going to write it out over here, just for the sake of writing it out, right? Okay, so our end result is going to be, if it grows really slowly, it can take up to 600 years. That's quite a difference, right? If it's growing 10 centimeters per year, if those are like optimal conditions, it still takes about 18 years to mature to that size. But if it's growing under less than optimal conditions, very poor conditions, like 3/10 of a centimeter per year, then it's going to take 600 years for that brain coral to grow to that size. Okay. So our minimum, 18 years, our maximum, 600 years. This question, 2 points, 1 point for the setup and 1 point for the correct answer with units.